Whitehorse is the capital of the Yukon and the largest city in the Yukon. Over 2/3 of the Yukon's residents live in Whitehorse, which has a year-round population of about 36,000. To the south are the basalt cliffs of Miles Canyon, site of a former gold rush town. From the canyon, the Yukon River Loop Trail winds north past the Whitehorse Fishway fish ladder toward the SS Klondike, a restored sternwheeler that once plied the Yukon River. Whitehorse is named after the historic rapids on the Yukon River, which resembled the flowing manes of charging white horses. On the Trail of 98, the stampeders had to bypass the treacherous water of Miles Canyon and Whitehorse Rapids south of the present city. The Whitehorse Rapids became known as the greatest peril on the Trail of 98. The construction of the Whitehorse Hydroelectric Dam in 1958 tamed Miles Canyon and has replaced the once foaming Whitehorse Rapids with Schwatka Lake Reservoir. In 1897, two entrepreneurs capitalized on the obstacles presented by the canyon and the rapids by building tramways on either side of the river. For a fee, their horse-drawn tram cars carried goods and small boats around the rapids on log rails. In 1900, construction of the White Pass and Amp Yukon Route Railway from Skagway to a point past the rapids was completed, and Whitehorse came into being at its railhead. For years, Whitehorse continued its role connecting rail service with riverboat traffic to Dawson. In 1920, the first plane landed. In 1942, thousands of American Army personnel arrived to build the Alaska Highway. In a record-breaking 8 months and 23 days, 1,534 miles of highway was laid down. The boom ceased by the end of the war, but Whitehorse had become an important center of communications and transportation. Whitehorse was incorporated as a city in 1950, and in 1953, the capital of the Yukon was transferred from Dawson City to Whitehorse. SS Klondike is the name of two sternwheelers, the second now a National Historic Site located in Whitehorse, Yukon. They ran freight between Whitehorse and Dawson City along the Yukon River. The ship was donated to Parks Canada and was gradually restored until 1966, when city authorities agreed to move the ship to its present location. On the 24th of June, 1967, the SS Klondike was designated a National Historic Site of Canada. On our trip to Whitehorse, we took part in a guided tour of the SS Klondike with our Canadian family, Christine and her granddaughter, Alyssa. It was a fantastic experience. At the conclusion of our tour, which was in late September 2023, we were advised that we would be the last visitors to tour the ship as it closed that day for a period of 5 years for a full restoration and will be closed to the general public until 2028. The Whitehorse Hydro Plant has served Yukoners since 1958. It was developed to supply electricity to a growing Yukon population. It began with 2 turbines. A third one was added in 1969 and a fourth in 1985. The weather vane is a retired Douglas DC-3 atop a swiveling support. Located beside the Whitehorse Airport, the weather vane is used mainly by pilots to determine wind direction. This weather vane only requires a 5 km/h wind to rotate. Our Canadian family and our host in Whitehorse, Christine and Alyssa, recommended that we all visit the Yukon Wildlife Preserve, located only 25 minutes from downtown Whitehorse, and is a unique wildlife viewing property featuring more than 12 species of northern Canadian mammals in their natural environment. Encompassing over 700 acres with various natural habitats, the Yukon Wildlife Preserve offers unparalleled wildlife viewing, education, and photo opportunities. Wildlife species are spread out around a 5 km loop, suitable for walking, biking, and skiing in winter. We decided to take the guided tour in their small group's bus. Our guide and driver was well informed, along with the tour operator Bad Dad Jokes. Facilities include the Wildlife Research and Rehabilitation Center, where injured wild animals are cared for by specialists who work to release healthy, capable animals back into the wild. The preserve is a center of northern education, conservation, and research excellence, and are a proud member of Canada's accredited zoos and aquariums. Our guide told us that the Yukon Wildlife Preserve's mission is to promote knowledge and foster appreciation of Arctic and boreal ecology. As our tour bus was returning back to the front gate, we asked the driver to stop and advised him that we will walk back to the main gate, as this would provide us with more time to see the exhibits in a more relaxed and quiet environment. Until young Alyssa thought she would try out her moose calling expertise to get the attention of a moose that was grazing on the other side of the lake. Do you think it's working? Another must-to-do thing is to visit the Yukon Transportation Museum, which brings the transportation history in Canada's rugged Yukon territory to life. With a variety of indoor and outdoor exhibitions, the museum shares glimpses and glimmers of the Yukon's character through the stories of people moving themselves, their possessions, and their ideas around the vast landscape and harsh scenery of the north. Located in Yukon's capital city near the Eric Nielsen Whitehorse International Airport, the museum is a charitable nonprofit organization and home to a variety of fascinating exhibitions and displays, including retired modes of transportation, like the Canadian Pacific Airlines DC-3 wind vane, miniature displays, art exhibits, and a treasure trove of photographs, artifacts, and tall tales. We discovered the rich traditions of the indigenous people that shaped transportation in this territory. Soar with the early bush pilots through crisp and sometimes harrowing northern skies. The Yukon Transportation Museum will guide you through Yukon's stories of love, loss, riches, ingenuity, adventure, fear, separation, joy, and determination. We came away with a real and clear understanding of how wild the Yukon was in the early days of transportation. We could not visit Whitehorse without dropping in to look around the McBride Museum. In 1950, a group of far-sighted Yukoners dedicated to the preservation of heritage started the Yukon Historical Society, the first organization of its kind in the territory. Co-founder William McBride was an employee of the White Pass and Amp Yukon Route Company and was able to salvage outdated transportation equipment for posterity. The Yukon Historical Society, YHS, soon acquired the unoccupied government telegraph office, built in 1900 and still located on its original site. In the 1950s and 60s, this building housed the growing collection and was open to the public as a museum during the summer. Volunteers were responsible for all the activities of the YHS and later the McBride Museum Society until the mid-1980s, when the first curator-director was hired. A must-see exhibition. We certainly enjoyed the experience. As we come to the end of our story and holiday in the Yukon, Canada, we have to say goodbye to our family who call Whitehorse their home. Huge thanks to Christine, Aaron, Cameron, and their children, Connor and Alyssa. Hope you all enjoyed the Vegemite.